Oh, hello everybody. Sorry about that. It was working on my end, so I didn't realize it wasn't going through. Sorry about that. I just realized there was one button that it was just showing previews. Welcome to the IllestPreacha. Now I'm gonna restart what everything I was saying because I was playing and jamming. So let me go back to the beginning. Because sometimes when it comes to technology, all of these things are swimming. So what I was saying before and wondering why there was no one talking or anything is that during these performances, I'm gonna bring an immersive experience to y'all. And if you want to talk in the chat, talk in the chat. Don't worry about anything like that because in these things, the connectivity is what matters, and that's what I'm going to show throughout with different performances. And you could ask questions throughout the performance. I can bring that in. I could bring that in. I can do all of that. So right now, what I was saying before, because I didn't realize that y'all couldn't hear me or see me, I was pulling up some freestyle, some live coding, which I'm going to continue. Is I want you while the first portion of this performance, whenever you can, think about what senses come to mind. And one thing I want to play with is the smell of touch and taste. Touch and taste. So while you hear these images and you hear the sound, we're going to try to do interactivity through the sense of taste and smell. So if you don't mind putting certain words while this is playing of different ways you feel touch and smell through this, let me know. Put it in and don't hesitate to talk in the chat because it is going to play with what I show, and I'm going to be different using different tools. Don't hesitate ever to ask questions because this is an interactive session, and asking questions bring down the tension, and everyone can look and it believes of the suspension of the tension of what is being sensed, because sometimes words can mean more than sentences. So let me restart the live code and think about what type of food emerges when you hear this. What type of food brings an element of bliss when you hear this? And elements of touch. What do you feel you're touching? Where are you exactly when this is occurring? Put it in the chat. What does this make you feel like? With all that I hear, from the coffee to the popsicle, is the emergence of breakfast. The emergence of a time that when we wake up, we seek to eat. What did y'all have for breakfast today? What did you have for breakfast tonight? Eating out of the food truck and late night in the city with toppings and toppings, having it sweet, having it bitter, having it elite. Are we looking for something that is exposed or something that is cheap? Are we looking for something that will fill our taste buds and make us want to be part of the fleet? What aspects do you see? What is missing in the ingredients? Are you looking for some raspberries? Are you looking for some protein? Are you trying to not eat meat so you want a little vegan inside this treat? Or do we try to go outside of the bounds and add some Sour Patch gummies with the pancake and try to add the extra elements to make it yummy? These are some of the things that seek. These are some of the things that flow. A hot pancake with maple syrup might hit the spot as the weather in both Hamilton and Montreal are cold. Or do we add extra profiles to the taste? Do we add something extra? Maybe an exotic ingredient to make the pace, the place, the space. What shall we eat? What elements should I add? What elements will make you glad? What element? I think there was a little glitch in the matrix. I think the orders of the s'mores might have interacted and was too much for the computer cores. Because when we're talking sweetness, it could clutter. But isn't that what we like the sweetness for? That is part of the batter. Now, what elements are we trying to make this? What elements are we trying to add to this flip? Do we flip the pancakes or do we add a little sis? Do we make it a little crunchy? Or do we go for a faster pace? Let's add a candy glitch. Switch from pancakes from something savory to something sweet. Maybe that will add to the fix. We want faster pace, faster haste. Let's give our clients what they want. Let's give them something that they can flaunt. Let's get this candy a golden crisps. Let's give this candy a golden clips. Now let's look at the inner makings of the candy. Candy is fast. Let's mimic the sugar rush. Let's make it into a plenty of Let's mimic that feeling of when the candy enters your system and it's just going chaotic. It's just going flow by flow. And the elements of gold are just the texture. The texture. But you know what? We can't have too many sweets. Because I'm not trying to look to go to the dentist. So let's slow this down a bit so we can chew and experience the taste through every glitter, every motion. Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down so we can have a bit of an appetite, a bit of a surreal experience. Let's try to take this candy glitch with the Sour Patch gummies and the coffee that was mentioned before and add in the extra elements like the s'mores and the pancakes. What do you see before your eyes? How does this dish look? So if you can explain in the chat what you're experiencing with your eyes beyond this image and sound, beyond this image and the audio. How does it flow inside your body? How does it reach your soul? What do you see? What kind of creation are you looking through deep? Is this something that you want to engage before you sleep? Is this something that you wish you had more of as this session reaps? Jack, what do you see in this alcoholic lemonade? And should the elements just be a bit smoother? When I think of alcoholic lemonade, I think of where the senses are trying to make something proclaim, something that aids, something that rises above the notion of what is merely known as rain. Maybe we're trying to get into the game, trying to get into the flames, trying to get into other aspects that are laid. What is in an alcoholic lemonade? Lemon slice and umbrella. So now we're taking rain and pain and trying to make it to our own gains. What is this that I'm hearing? What is this that I'm sensing? What is this that I'm sensing? What is this that I'm trying to add to the layers of suspense? Maybe I have to teleport us to this different aspect. Maybe I have to bring us to another space, another lane. Now, I want everyone, since we got it in the crowd, imagine you're with the lemon slice and umbrella. How would you move around? What do you see outside where the giant lemon slices are coming out as rain and coming out to bring us a notion of where lemonade and s'mores are coming out of the ocean and out of the mountains? There's the Sour Patch gummies that were mentioned before. Do you think if lava was in the Sour Patch gummies, it would be a yummy? Or would it be something that's so slimy, so icky, so touchy that it might make us a little icky sicky? These are some moments to treasure. These are some moments that we have to think about. Is this pain or is this pleasure? Is there pleasure in trying to subvert the nature of our culture as we proclaim? Let's ponder. Let's wonder. Let's try to think about this. Lava is pain. But is it really? Is the heat more than just an illusion of something that's trying to give us more aim, something that can maybe able to fuel us like Gatorade? It depends on what subversion really is. It depends on what we're trying to get from each other. It really depends. The bobble boop drops as the tumble hoop pops. Now in this world of lemon slices and umbrellas, we can tell from the sounds of these raindrops that they're really big drops. And like but they're slidable, they're playable, they're rhymable. But not every day has rain. Sometimes the sun wants to shine. Let's try to mimic this feeling. Let's try to mimic this time. But it seems that the rain has turned into a different element. A different element. With a high beam. If you were walking in this world that the lemon slices stopped dropping from the sky, what would your mind tell you that you haven't realized? What are those sounds that we're hearing? What are those sounds that are flowing? Is it a gloomy day that we're in right now? Or is the shine immense rays flowing and making the little elements that we see below the top glowing, rowing? Is this something that we're alive, that we realize that inside? Or is it something that we're trying to break apart from the barriers and the terrains to make it to the outside? Take a moment to reflect. Take a moment for a retrospect. Take a moment from inside to realize that our body sometimes leaves certain things behind, because sometimes that's what we try to do when we hide. But isn't this the time, the moment, that we can take to a rise to get on a different line, a different time, a different inside rhyme? And these are the elements, the components that make an experience. Playing with the audio and the visuals. Acid rain, rain that is acid, rain that sometimes we might want to put in a close lid. Pivotal moments, pivotal oceans, pivotal times. 2021. But what has this time summoned that cannot be done? Let's take a moment. Let's slow this down. Let's slow this down even more. And while we slow down, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment. take a moment. I um Time making is presses heard, ticking heart beating, while the different words and the different aspects of life is feeding. Feeding to a different notion, feeding to a different potion. What levels, what aspects are we willing to hear? What levels and timing are we looking to fear? Sometimes silence is part of sound, an underrated element that keeps us round. For not all audio has to be seen throughout the scene. Sometimes just a moment of silence can give us the time to breathe, the time to believe, the time to act, the time to put on the other notions that are being flagged. Now, let's try to bring it back to Ontario when we're doing this course in McMasters's interactive audio with a little estuary to help with the imagery we're trying to breathe. How is the mood right now? Now let's take the moment to chill. Let's take the moment for our emotions to spill. As I'm gonna wind it down for questions during this session. Thank y'all very much. Now, thank y'all very much for that thing. Sorry for the minor technicalities that occur. And now, if you have any questions in the chat, let me know. Let me know. Thank you very much for enjoying that. So that was just a bit of showing you how interactive and spatial audio can be used. So when I was discussing with Louise, your teacher, over this, I was saying that what I would like to do is showcase how interactive audio can be used to make real life experiences. And some of the experience I have been able to do through live coding and other stuff have been things like Code Kitchen. That's why I was very big on food and taste, because it's an experience that I realized that with what we're going on, food brings us together. And audio, people like audio, and audio is a form of culture. And culture is a form of way that we relate to each other. So was there an experience that we can do together? And one of the things that happened through this mishmash is called Code Kitchen. And in the notion of Code Kitchen, it's where we try to blend the concept of dining as a group together with different sounds so people get different prompts. That's why I was always using poetry and asking different prompts to make the sound impact of what you're going to eat and stuff. And I do sometimes call this live coding beyond the screens, because not only am I trying to manipulate sounds and visuals, but I'm also trying to put the user in this like role playing experience. And that's why I use tools like Sonic Pi or even S3 in the end, because these are tools that allow you to play with each other. And then the same thing happened later on where for Halloween I decided to take like open, like not open source, Creative Commons stuff, like things that are in the public domain. So I took three different films and I was able to make an interactive like Halloween type film where depending on how the audience react, I will change the nature of the story in real time. And people tend to enjoy that. And I think that like if y'all like, usually when you go to performances, the audience is just watching, and due to things like Zoom fatigue and everything being digital, I realized that just asking people how they're doing and letting people minds explore, it added more to not only how I'm feeling, but also I realized that sometimes people did enjoy. And then even if you're watching the background, you're realizing that you are involved. So these are some of the aspects that I feel like interactive audio does allow and relay when it comes to how we're feeling and gives emotion of play. So those are some of the things to do. And then there's little games that I've been peeking around in this thing. So that's how like why certain things were mentioned because of like recent stuff. But yeah. So if there are any questions on why I chose different sounds, how I came about this, let me know in the chat. So the question is, when you go into a performance, are there genres you gravitate towards that you find more accurately achieve these interactions with senses, food and taste? The thing is that we all have preconceived notions. So that's why I always try to have like a lot of abstract. Except with food, I try to be very deliberate at times with the recipes, because recipes are just algorithms. And when it comes to the sound, I try to add elements of like I'm very comfortable with like hip hop and I guess due to live coding electronic, but I've really been in the vibe of ambient because I realize when it's ambient, people inner thoughts are less biased towards what they think others will perceive, if that makes sense, because sometimes you got to be careful of not making actual music because then you can sort of have it go into a different direction. So I always try to go as abstract or as random. That's why sometimes like when I hear, sometimes I will like, if you realize, I will make the cadence of the audio go slower or faster because I realize that has a very big impact on what people will choose. Like certain, like if you do like chiptune music, people might feel jolly, but if I make it fast or if I make it slow and choppy, some people might say crunchy. So it's always an experience on depending on the crowd, the time of day, people will choose. Like if I go 7 p.m., I know I have to lean towards dinner because that's where all the aspect is. And if you remember earlier in this convo, a lot of the things that y'all were saying were dealing with snacks, dealing with many things. And 2:30 is a snack time, right? It's not really quite lunch, not really quite dinner. And that's why I was playing around with like candy and sweets because of the time, because it's in between. I hope I answered your question. And if you have more, let me know, because I know it's a slight delay of when I talk and what you hear. No problem, no problem. And does anyone else have questions for this session? The question is, do you ever have to organically work technical difficulties or glitch experience into the performance? Yes. So it actually happened today. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden the thing glitched. Because before, when I didn't realize that y'all couldn't see me or hear me, so I didn't know that people couldn't do it because it was under preview. So I had to weave that in my performance. And then mid-performance, today, it just screwed up. And that's why I went back in and talked about the glitch. Because luckily at that time, Louise actually said candy glitch, so I was able to weave it back. And with technology and a lot of live, I have had like one time my computer restarted out of nowhere. And then, but this was during the making of the Halloween movie. So then I came back and I said, it's okay, everybody. It's okay, no worries. The aliens were trying to get me because they don't want to know the truth of the zombies. They don't want to know the truth, but I'm back. And if I glitch out again, and yeah, so that was one where I had to come up with something on the spot. Or with the first Code Kitchen thing, my co-chef, ironically, it just happened. I don't know why. I have actually good internet, and then it happened. So sorry, I don't know if you heard everything, but you see right there, that was actually an unplanned glitch. And then this is where the poetry actually comes in, because normally, since people know I'm going to be speaking, that's where I will speak and be like, "Oh, sorry for the technical experience. This is what happened. My computer just died. My computer just flied, but don't worry, we're coming back to the sky. The computer couldn't handle the extra sweetness that we're being handled. So don't worry, I'm gonna get it under control because this is what I do. And if it screws up again, just know that the sun is attacking me with these vibes that are blue." And that's how you sort of play with it, because I have to expect that internet might chop out. I might be using extra high bit rates. So these are all elements that I'm adding in. Exactly. So that was not planned. I don't know why I did that, but that's what you do. You just go within the flow. And one thing you learn in performance, I learned this when I was taking dance class back in high school. Only you know how your performance will be. Only you know how your performance looks like. And since you're the only person that knows that, you should not be scared to have failures, because you can always weave that back in. So that's how I try to do it. And having so many different aspects from audio, visual to performance, if one breaks down, I know that I can take time to troubleshoot due to the tools. And then someone else asks, can you talk which tools you use for today's performance and how you usually decide on those? That's a very good question, Jessica. So normally I would start with Sonic Pi, just because that's the one I have used the longest. And then depending on how the audience reacts. So if the audience is like very into the creativity and I know that it's like a bunch of writers, I would use something like inverse.website. Let me actually have it brought up. I would use inverse.website because it comes with its own language. So if I go on the side here, I can make my own word table. So I like to use this to make like on the spot poetry and all that stuff. So with inverse is where I feel like I can freestyle my words and play around. If I'm trying to build like a multi-layer sound thing, I will use Estuary, because I think y'all might be familiar with Estuary. But you know how you have 6 different panels? So I do like it where I can save code in different panels and then play with like different sounds. And if I don't like one, I can like save it in another panel and go in. So I like using Estuary for those kind of stuff. And also with Estuary, I can also do visuals. So sometimes I like just the notion that I can play with like if I was 6 different people. And also with the black and green background, it aids a lot with sci-fi because I'm able to motion it through. So I'm going to give an example of that, what I'm just talking about. You see right there, like these different things, especially scrolling. So whenever I want to give like that sci-fi, we're entering into a spaceship or play, I love using Estuary for just the notion that just how y'all built it, it's enough that like even visually it could look sci-fi. So I don't have to work extra hard on those visuals. If I'm looking for chaoticness, I'm going with live code because every time I type it changes. And it's just pure chaotic sometimes. And I love it for that. As you can see, I'm just going to go through different of things from the tutorial. As you can see, I don't have to do much to get much out of it. So I like it a lot, especially when I ask people to give me variants. Then what I actually used the first time, like when my one of my things glitch up, because that day there was problems with Hydra. So I'm like, I need something for visuals. And then I love live code in YouTube because it gives me that copy paste ability where instead of trying to make something from scratch, I'm trying to remix something. And then again, with like using OBS and different tools, I'm able to give feelings that are not naturally there. So this one, I have 9 different videos playing. Let me actually give you a non-filtered version so you see what I mean. And like as you can see, I'm using one video, but since I'm playing with it in like 3 4 different ways, it gives a different feeling of chaoticness. It gives a different feeling of what is really going on. And those are some of the tools I use. And then of course Hydra, which I love using for different things, and also I love building out stories. And how I so usually I will start with Sonic Pi or Hydra, and then I will move into other stuff depending on how I'm feeling, depending on the notion. So I try to like not rely on any one tool because all of them can do a lot. Like I said, S3, I can use it also for visuals and stuff. And if I want to be simple, like if I'm doing something that is based on title cycles, I would love to use S3 because I can do a lot within it and it's simple. Also, Live Code Lab, if I'm trying to get a different based on sound, because with Live Code Lab, there's actually sound. And then I could mix those sounds with the thing for like chaoticness. Yeah, that might have been a bit loud, but that's what I like about like Live Code Lab, that instant thing. So if it's something that I'm pressed for time, I would like to go with Live Code Lab because it goes in. Yeah. Thank you for that, Louise. So yeah. So that's one thing about Live Code Lab that I like. Because compared to all the other tools, I don't have to press enter or any button. So it is one of those tools that I love to do live on the spot peer things. Especially if I have like a time limit of 5 to 10 minutes, it is the one that I can get the fastest reaction. And I miss that with like mini title, which due to how the language works, I can do a lot of variants with minimal keystrokes. And do we have any other questions? And so far the questions have been great. Keep them coming if you can. Oh, okay, yeah, for sure. Let me bring that up. Code Kitchen. Oh, for sure. Don't worry. Yeah, Code Kitchen. Let me find where it's at. So yeah. No problem, David. Thank you for being here. Always welcome as usual. Thank you for your words, and we shall catch up. Thank you very much for that. And back to Code Kitchen. Code Kitchen started because I was curious on if I'm adding visuals, that's cool. If I'm adding music, that's cool. That's two out of the five senses. And when you're in person or other stuff, I can tell people how to touch. So I was like, three out of five of the senses are cool. What if I wanted to give a virtual reality without headsets? Because not everyone has headsets. How can I give a virtual reality thing without being in virtual reality? And one thing that came to mind really was Cold Kitchen. Because when you're in a kitchen, all the senses are immersed. Every time you think about taste, you also think about smell. But you touch food, you see food, you also hear food. And food is one thing that brings us together. We have debates over food. Food, like you can go to dinner and be in a big group, birthday cakes, snacks, guilty pleasures. So in Cold Kitchen, when I was designing with other people, because I had been having this idea that I want to immerse more food, and I've been playing with it. And I don't know if you remember this, Louise. Like back, I think it was 2018. I made you play with Unity, and remember it was like snowman and fruits. There's actual video if y'all want to see that, where Luis was playing randomly in Unity with like snowman and fruits, and I would try to live code him. And with that experience, what I was trying to mimic in this one was, wait, is it possible to have an experience where we can mimic Diamond? Because everyone's on Zoom now, everyone's on all these different platforms, everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that. Is there an experience where we can just have a seat and eat a meal? And then with the help of Kevin Smuggle and Ilana, I was able to like visualize this into a performance piece where we would have 5 6 course meals, or even have a food truck fast food edition. And then every time I will prompt the audience with different food prompts, like if you were to be a meal, what meal would you be? If you were listening to rock, what type of food would you be? When you eat a pizza, what TV show comes to mind? And by having live, and by being able to have interactive audio, I was able to like play around. If someone says sweet, I would try to play sweet sounds. If someone said crunchy, I would add extra texture and make it slow, and try to bring them into like a, let's say, a sci-fi place. Cause think about it, we don't normally think about if we're eating in places outside of our scope. So what if I told you, let's say I play sci-fi sounds, and I told you, what would you want for breakfast? Most likely you're not thinking the same breakfast that you had in your house, because you're out of space, and space has so many stars, it has so many planets, it has so many wonder. So what would you eat in space? And let's say I was able to control the sounds that you were hearing and the visuals. Maybe I can also change what you might eat at that particular time. And that's really what Cold Kitchen is developing into, is a thing that changes. So the first edition was about dining. The second edition was really about fast food, like an immersive experience where if you had like 5 6 ingredients on you, what would you eat? What would you choose? What makes you feel satisfied? What makes you feel complete at that moment? And then after we realized that food, digital food, can also bring on concepts of organic, GMO. So that's why now, whenever we do this, we call it digitally organic, because coded food, technically some of our food is already genetically modified, and isn't genetically modified playing with code. So what's the difference between that and what we're doing? And yeah, hope that explains more about Code Kitchen and all that stuff. Any other questions? Oh, no problem. I really loved it. I really love those kind of pieces. And now, due to that piece and other stuff I talked about and the performances, I'm trying to build more game experiences with like rules and sets. So when it comes to like interactive audio or live coding, we could have more fun playing. So I was just thinking of how would like with this is where like something like S3, like the question Jessica asked, this is where something like S3 is cool since Hydra's included and sound, where we can do something like charades where you try to get people to say different words, or it could have like certain songs where you have a songwriter and you try to live code a song on the spot where the person tries to write lyrics. And I want to further more into these experiences because I think there's so much that we can do, try to do if we let our minds explore, imagine, dream. And due to streaming, I have realized that different people want different stuff. So try not to make that cookie cutter type experience, but more try to relate that experience to what that particular audience wants or feels or what was asked from me. And then, yeah. Are there any other questions? Any other vibes? Any other questions about how I do my lines, rhymes, or the intensity levels that arises when I use different aspects of my mind? Yes, I will give you that to Louise and everyone else. And let me actually check right now because I actually do have a document which I think I can post. Hold up. Everyone hold up about it. Let me just make sure I can actually do that. Just gotta find that link because I actually have one ready. Let me just. Okay, here we go. Let me drop this in the chat right now. And then I will also give another copy to you, Luis, where that one is where there's a link to some of the tools. And then, and if there's any more questions from you and your students or anyone watching, you could email me or message me. Yeah, and thank you very much. So I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I will just play an outro song maybe. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you everyone that came. This will be saved, and if there's things, we will just mark it out because I do have the longer version saved also on my computer. So we will talk about that. Thank you very much for having me here.